So this is the EPA's Ukumahami site, where they took the most hazardous waste right after the fire. It was the first site. So these look like they're electric car batteries. They're brought in wrapped in some sort of a liner. They're then put into a dumpster. They're unwrapped, thrown on a pit, and opened like a can opener with an excavator. They then take out the individual cells. If we look in the other pit where they're actually taking the cells to, we watch them drive over it with a steamroller, but then we watch the steamroller drive right on the ground that doesn't have the liner. That's called cross-contamination. Those cells, many of them have been burned and compromised and are already released some of these toxins into the shells they were taken out of. And you can see the bin with batteries left in it that have a lot of material. That was filled up with rain and just drained right out of the bottom of it. And you can see from the pump that's in it that it was just getting pumped right into the ground. The empty shells in the container that has been left there for months now has had high winds on it, has been filled with rainwater and just dripped out to the bottom onto the land with no liner. Are they testing that? Is that federal protocol? The mini excavator that's actually grabbing the toxic material has no safeguards in place. It can be seen driving around the site, grabbing other materials and causing cross-contamination. This is the EPA. We expect more out of them. If you look, there's nothing to stop from wind. A lot of those days they were working out there, it was 30, 40 mile an hour wind. It rained a few days later after this. You'll notice there's no roofs or any sort of protection from water on here. If this is what they deem the most hazardous waste, then what would the protocol be for the dump for something they're considering less hazardous? This stuff is so toxic, we have to follow it to every strict measure. So if this is an example of what's going to happen at the dump and the people that are in charge of it, we should be asking questions.
Could you just imagine if they were around and saw highways on the sacred grounds? How would they feel about this modern city life? Tears would come from each other's eyes as they would start to realize that our people are in great, great danger now. How would they feel? Would their smiles be content then and cry? Cry for the gods, cry for the people, cry for the land that was taken away, and then yet you'll find a way. Could you just imagine if they came back and saw traffic lights and railroad tracks? How would they feel about this modern city life? Tears will come from each other's.
This could have repercussions far beyond what people think. A few hundred yards from our most precious resource, the ocean, and these are the type of toxins that find themselves into the food chain and are what are destroying our ocean. So why are we going to take a chance with putting it right next to it on a cinder pit that's some of the most permeable stuff we know about? There's an underground stream that runs through here. There's another underground stream that runs right through the other side of it. This is all mapped out in fact. What is the protocol for their leachate? Look at the amount of surface area here. 1 inch of rain is over a half a gallon for 1 inch of rain that of a square foot of surface area. So if you can imagine over a square foot of area here, how much gallons of water, that's for every inch of rain. And those estimates are pretty low because we think there's a lot more surface area than that. So let's put it in perspective. What happens when this all piles up and we get a heavy rain? This was from 3 inches of rain right here, and you can see what happened. Just from this little bit of surface area they had, 3 inches of rain was just about enough to overflow it, where we believe it was designed probably to be up here. We just want to show you what's actually happening. So this is where the water came up to with 3 inches of rain. And so with that, it filled into the lower reservoir. We estimate at least 300,000 gallons of water. So that was on the 10th. Since then, it has rained again. But before it rained again, they were already starting to pump it. They're pumping the water out of the reservoir now. And as you can see, they're pumping it straight into the ground over here. There is no protocol in place for what's happening to this water. Now let's fast forward again. This is the 16th, and there was no more than 1.5 inches of rain. Let's see what happened. They've been draining for 24 hours on this. They're draining it to a spot on the bottom down here where it's just soaking right into the groundwater. My lot next door, 1 inch of rain leaves a puddle for 4 days. It will show you just how porous this material is. If you see this reservoir, now they drained however many hundreds of thousands of gallons were in there, and look at the amount of mud that it left. So now we have less capacity. What's their protocol for all this mud on the bottom? How are they going to get that out? And when they put the toxic material in, all of this mud is going to be ash, toxic ash. They are not prepared to start handling material. There is no protocol for the leachate. You can also see here in the back that they were trying to dam it to slow the water down so that it could be ejected fast enough by the smaller pipe. You can see spots where they're driving all over the liner, and it's very likely compromised in spots where you see their tire tracks. You're not really allowed to drive on this liner, especially on wet, non-compactable cinder. So their pumps have broke. They're still trying to pump it out on the bottom, but they're not even checking that their hoses are all clogged up with sediment, and it's actually just falling out and permeating right into the ground above where their retaining wall is.
Gonna blow, so I'm gonna go down on the road again, starting where the mountains left me. I end up where I began. Where I will go, the wind only knows. Good times around the bend. Get in my car, going too far, never coming back again. Tired and worn, I woke up this morning.
It had rained days before. You can tell they just mixed the sludge right into the mud. They added quite a bit more material with it. In here at this moment, I want to say there is about 20,000 gallons of material. This is between the 24th and the 25th. They had just pumped a lot of this material out straight into the ground below it, and that would be to right down here. So this is the next day it rained. This is the 26th. It rained less than 1/2 inch. That 1/2 inch you can see really just filled up in there, and it would have been at the edge, possibly even overflowing. But now they're actually using the toxic material itself as the dam. You're mixing all the toxic material like a tea bag. It has to drain through this into here. Now it's 100,000 gallons. 0.41 inches of rain, there's 100,000 gallons of material in here. So what happens if we get a 3-inch rain? We're in trouble. The math is obvious.
Sometimes it just seems that I'm just along for the ride. Some they will cry because they have pride, but someone who's loved here died.
And all the cross-contamination, it's not that it's not happening, they're just washing it down the road so no one can see it. And where's it going? Well, it's flowing right down the road because they've changed the way that the road runs. This wasn't an asphalt road before. There's no drainages, French drains, anything to protect us or the ocean for all this toxic material as they roll in and out of the dump with this material, and they're dumping it. And this is the only thing they really have in place is a little metal gate. And then if you look right here, you can see the toxic material on the road, and then they just spray it down with a truck.
Would visit all these islands and saw everything. How would they feel about the changes of our land? imagine if they were around and saw highways on the sacred grounds, how would they feel about this modern city life? Tears would come from each other's eyes as they would start to realize that our people are in great, great